Very good evening to one and all. Um, Let us wait for 2 more minutes for the other participants also to join. Hope my voice is audible to everyone. Am I clear?
Yes, sir. Absolutely clear.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, before we start with the session, uh, I would like to wish you all a very happy evening, and I welcome you all to this session on behalf of Sri Narayani Teacher Training Center. And today's topic is using Bloom's taxonomy for assessments. But we'll be looking into the major aspects of Bloom's taxonomy only, as it is just a 1 hour session. We are not going to look into the deep elements of how to use. This is just an introductory section, like introductory session for all the three elements of Bloom's taxonomy. So, as you all know, there are several ground rules for any
विशाखा वाटर कौन कर रहा है ना जोन की
session.
मीटिंग में ऑन हो गई है
The first thing is that kindly keep your phones on silent and please be on mute. If at all you have a doubt, you can then ask your doubt. And one person is only expected to talk at one time and keep to the topic, keep to the time, respect everyone's contribution, and participate actively. Yeah, so today's agenda is uh, like what is Bloom's taxonomy is the first thing that we are going to look into. And then we'll be exploring the cognitive domain, which we all know as teachers. We use the cognitive domain of Bloom's taxonomy a lot in our what to be session, what do we say, day-to-day classroom transaction as well as during the exams. And then we'll be looking into affective domain. Most of the people don't give much importance to affective domain and psychomotor domain, especially the teachers who are into high school and all. But then it's very much important that we keep this in mind because students' development is, gradual. It's not, a one-day transformation that happens to the child. And then we'll be looking into revised taxonomy and few verbs and all. We'll be not doing verbs today. We'll be only doing these three domains. Yeah. So let us explore what Bloom's taxonomy is first. So it's a hierarchical model that categorizes learning objectives into varying levels of complexity, from basic knowledge and comprehension to advanced evaluation and creation. So it is the step by step process wherein we will let to know whether the child is able to understand and then apply the knowledge and interpret and then finally create, okay, as per the knowledge he or she has gained. So this is a step process. It's not a straight short process. So Bloom's taxonomy was originally published in 1956 and the taxonomy was modified each year for 16 years after it was first published. Okay. After the initial cognitive domain was created, which is primarily used in the classroom setting, psychologists devised additional taxonomies to explain affective, which talks about the emotions of the child, and psychomotor domains as well, which is basically the physical learning parts of the child. And in 2001, Bloom's initial taxonomy was revised to reflect how learning is an active process and not a passive one. So the Bloom's taxonomy has been revised in 2001. Although Bloom's taxonomy is met with several valid criticisms, it is still widely used in the educational setting today. See, like any CBSE training which you attend, even not only CBSE trainings, even adult trainings are based upon Bloom's taxonomy's philosophy. Whatever might be the criticism or whatever might be the new research that is coming into the field of education, the emphasis and significance that educators give to Bloom's taxonomy has never changed. It always remains like that because it helps in understanding whether the child has got the enough knowledge that has been communicated to him or her. So the Bloom's taxonomy was actually developed by Benjamin Bloom, who's an educational psychologist and the chair of the Committee of Educators at the University of Chicago. So it is not just one person, there was a committee and all the people contributed. The contribution of Bloom's was more, Benjamin Bloom's was more. However, everyone has contributed for it. So in the mid 1950s, Benjamin Bloom worked in collaboration with Max Engelhardt, Edward First, Walter Hill, and David Cradwell to devise a system that classified levels of cognitive functioning and provided a sense of structure for the various mental processes we experience. Okay, so this was written by a person called as Armstrong in 2010. So what was the actual agenda behind, finding out this taxonomy and the levels of taxonomy is that to understand the cognitive growth of the child, how the thinking capacity of the child increases day by day, and what can we do to, as to uh, improvise this thinking capacity of the child through conducting a series of studies that focused on student achievement. Remember student achievement. So after each and every experiment, okay, they have actually measured the achievement of the students. The team was able to isolate certain factors both inside and outside the school environment that affect how children learn. See, one thing that we have to remember is the child's learning capacity is not just affected by the school, it is also affected by the child's personal life. It's very much important. However, only for the sake of designing a question paper or else designing a classroom transaction, we give much importance to the cognitive domain of Bloom's taxonomy, and hardly people give any importance to the other affective and psychomotor domains. But people who are regularly attending the trainings and who are very much interested in upgrading the knowledge, especially after NEP 2020 has come, they are, trying well. But then I request you all to definitely go to each and every one of your colleague and friend or whoever is into teaching and give an awareness about the three domains of Bloom's taxonomy. It's very much important that we understand all the three domains. Any which ways, one such factor was the lack of variation in teaching. In other words, teachers were not meeting each individual student's needs and instead relied upon one universal curriculum. See, even today, like Finland, which is known for its educational system all over the world, they follow personalized teaching method. The teacher-student ratio is very less. And initially, people couldn't, achieve, or teachers couldn't find achievement of learning outcomes in the students because the learning was not designed in a personalized manner. It was a universal method of teaching that they were following, because of which outcomes were not met properly. Any which ways, once Bloom's taxonomy was the paper of Bloom's taxonomy, the journal of Bloom's taxonomy was produced, it was circulated among the teaching fraternity. People understood that the learning should be personalized. To address this, Bloom and his colleagues postulated that if teachers were to provide individualized educational plans, students would learn significantly better. At least today, we urge the teachers to come up with individualized learning plan for the students. I have started this in my school for 10th graders especially, because at least if in 10th grade we could come up with an individualized plan, what happens is as they are giving their boards, it will be really useful. So after that, we have to do individualized planning for all the classes. And, teachers can take up the responsibility of few set of students and see to it that the individualized plan is properly executed for their learning purpose, so that we can, we can come up with equity, not just equality. Equality in the sense giving the same opportunity for everyone. But in teaching, I don't believe equality works. We should go with equity, wherein every child is given necessary, hand holding, and he is brought on par with the other students. This hypothesis inspired the development of Bloom's mastery learning procedure, in which teachers would organize specific skills and concepts into week-long units. This is how they have worked initially. Okay. The completion of each unit would be followed by an assessment through which the student would reflect upon what they learned. Like we even take class tests, don't we? So the same way, after every unit of the lesson, they have conducted an assessment. Upon that, they have identified what the child has learned and they started measuring the capabilities of the child. It's related to the concept. This theory that students would be able to master subjects when teachers relied upon suitable learning conditions and clear learning objectives was guided by Bloom's taxonomy. So this is a very important aspect. That's the reason, like there is a saying, no, the more you revise Bloom's taxonomy, you get more ideas as to how to work with the students. So I suggest teachers have to go through Bloom's taxonomy on daily basis, like a religious book which we follow in our home. All of us, we have a religious book and we read it constantly, don't we? The same way, every day a teacher has to go through Bloom's taxonomy so that again and again, okay, a refreshing idea about how to come up with good classroom transaction and achieve the learning outcomes with the students. You have an idea about this. Moving further, see, the original taxonomy was published in the year 1956, and it is called as Taxonomy of Educational Objectives. Remember, the whole picture is here about objectives, what to achieve. Okay. The taxonomy provides different levels of learning objectives divided by complexity, which means each level becomes complex. First, it is understanding, remembering, and then understanding, and then applying. So the more, every step that the child crosses, the difficulty level increases. Okay. And then only after a student masters one level of learning goals through formative assessments, corrective activities, and other enrichment exercises can they move on to the next level. Okay, that is very much important. The thing is that we have to see to it that the child is achieving each level of Bloom's taxonomy. You have to start with remembering level and then understanding level and then applying level. This way we have to, give space for the child to explore the concepts and, dive through the concepts and through these 6 levels of Bloom's taxonomy. So let us start with the domains of Bloom's taxonomy. The first one is the cognitive domain, which was published in the year 1956. It is related with thinking and intellect of the child. The original version of taxonomy, the cognitive domain is the first and most common hierarchy of learning objectives. It focuses on acquiring and applying knowledge and is widely used in the educational setting. So this is the first and most important domain. We all know about it. And we also see to it that our question papers or classroom assessments, any sort of assessment that we are conducting is completely based upon this cognitive domain of Bloom's taxonomy. This initial cognitive model relies on nouns or more passive words to illustrate the different educational benchmarks. See, every level, knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, evaluation, this was the initial one. Now it has changed. We will discuss that also. Every phrase is completely based upon the benchmarks, which means at the level of knowledge, what is the child expected to have? When he is going to the next level, comprehension, what is the child expected to do? In the application level, what is he expected to do? In this way, there is a benchmark of understanding among the educational scientists or researchers. So we should make sure that the child is achieving this and crossing each one of it. Because it is hierarchical, the higher levels of the pyramid are dependent on having achieved the skills of the lower levels. While they are framing the questions also, most of the teachers, they are very much, impatient that they start asking questions from the application level, analysis level, and finally creative level also few people ask. But the thing is that it is very much important. First, we see to it that the child is into the knowledge level and then the comprehension level. These first two steps, they are very much important. And then we have to move on to the other levels and ask questions based upon them. The individual tiers of the cognitive model from bottom to top with examples included are as follows. Now, let us observe each level of this cognitive domain clearly. The first one is remembering. So this is the new taxonomy. Okay, this is the picture of the new taxonomy, which was revised in 2001. So the first step is remembering level. In this remembering level, if the teacher has introduced any concept to the child within the classroom setup, the teacher has to make sure that the child is able to describe the important the thing that they have learned from the concept, and they should be in a position to relate it to their personal life. Let me be very clear. In the remembering level itself, the child should be in a position to relate that particular concept to their real life setup, and then tell about it, and also find in the sense they should find it in their real life setup. Okay, that concept they should, for example, there is a scenario. In that scenario, the child should be able to look into the science concept which the science teacher has taught, social concept which the social teacher has taught. Every concept should be relatable. Remember, let me once again speak about the very first sentence given in National Curriculum Framework 2023. They have clearly said that school is not just a place to give academic knowledge to the child, but it is a place wherein we give the holistic understanding about the life experiences, so that the child is ready for the life after 12th grade. So from the remembering level itself, we have to make sure that the child is able to describe, relate, tell, and find the concepts in real life setup. And next is the understanding level. In understanding, the child should be in a position to outline the concept. Outline in the sense, now he understood. He should be in a position to express. He or she should be in a position to express the concept that they have learned, and then explain. Expressing and explaining, it's not very much different. And predict the concept, if at all, what happens if the concept is utilized in the life. For example, you have learned what happens if you put few drops of lemon into boiling milk, isn't it? So what happens after that, you should be in a position to predict. In this way, we should motivate the children to predict what happens after applying certain concepts in their life. And finally, application. The child should be in a position to illustrate the concept, how it should be applied, what is the step process to apply any concept or knowledge that he or she has gained in the classroom, and then complete the given set of questions, real life scenarios. If at all we are giving real life scenarios to the students, they should be in a position to complete that scenario. They should be in a position to predict and complete. They should tell us what happens next and solve the day-to-day problems that arise using the concepts that we have taught them. Finally, analyze. In the stage of analyzing, the children should compare it, okay, the concept with the other concept, and come up with their their understandings about it after analyzing what they have understood, and explain the concepts and categorize the concepts also, like different concepts under different things and the different broad categories. Finally, evaluate. uh, in this stage of evaluation, they should prioritize, which means what is important, what is not important, what can be done, what cannot be done, and give a proper rating to any concept. This is really interesting, how much it is useful when compared to the other concepts. Justify how well the concept can be used in one's life. And finally, it's the creative level, wherein the imagination, designing, and planning capacities of the child increase. So this was a brief note about what's Bloom's taxonomy. Yes, and this is what we have seen. This was the revised taxonomy in the year 2001. Okay, so it is a dynamic approach to education instead of shoehorning educational objectives into fixed, unchanging spaces. you know like uh, See, education, learning objectives and learning outcomes are always there, but it is not that it should be the same for every child. That's what we are talking. It is always personalized. The teacher should be in a position to personalize the learning experience for all the students. And you cannot just expect every child to come up with the expected learning outcome. It is a slow process. First, you should make sure that every child is crossing the levels of remembering and understanding. That is more important. And then only you can expect the child to go to the level of applying, evaluating, analyzing such sort of levels. So we have few verbs also. So you can take a look at this picture in which you find the old Bloom's taxonomy and the new Bloom's taxonomy. Certain changes have happened. So this is the new Bloom's taxonomy which we are following now and which is highly appreciated by most of the educators all over the world. The first level is the remembering level. Second level is the understanding level. And then remember again, let me tell you, these two are very important. Every child, irrespective of, few people have messaged in the chat box, what about the weaker students? However, the child is weak, the first duty of the teacher is to make sure that every child, if you have 40 children in the class, every child should remember and understand the concept that you have taught him or her. And from there, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating, it depends upon the child's capability, and we have to nurture the capability. We cannot push the child. We have to nurture. We have to give necessary remediation. We have to give necessary, what do we say, intervention, educational intervention. And finally, we have to see to it that the child is reaching to the maximum level of Bloom's taxonomy. So, Bloom's taxonomy is not only helpful in assessing the children, but Bloom's taxonomy is also very much useful in designing your course. Designing your course is nothing but designing your classroom transaction in any lesson. Okay. Like this model helps teachers identify the key learning objectives they want a student to achieve for each unit because it substantially details the learning process. Like when the teacher is planning the lesson, the teacher should have all the verbs of Bloom's taxonomy. Once the teacher is completely prepared with the lesson, you can go through the verbs of the Bloom's taxonomy and you can frame the learning outcomes. So not only the learning outcomes which are given by CBSE, but also you can, as we are telling again, it's personalized. For each child, you can frame a learning outcome depending upon his capability. Now he is up to this level. What is the next level that I have to bring the child to? In this way, you can frame a personalized learning outcome for the child. And this is the most important aspect. So in this way, what happens is you can design a very good like chapter and classroom transaction for your children so that you can achieve the learning outcomes in a personalized way. So few people have asked about what are like give an example of how to frame questions and all using Bloom's taxonomy. Now let us observe few questions here. First, let us start from the lower part, which is remembering level. The verbs that we can use are list, recite, outline, define, name, match, quote, recall, identify, label, recognize. These are the exemplifying verbs that are given. Now, let us see a question. By the end of this lesson, the student will able to recite Newton's three laws of motion. So this lesson, example lesson that we have taken is Newton's laws of motion. So in the remembering level, by the end of this lesson, the student will be able to recite Newton's three laws of motion, which means the teacher has explained the child the Newton's laws of motion. Now the child can tell the same thing to the class, same thing to anyone whom he comes across, whom he or she comes across in life. Okay, that is remembering level. In the understanding level, by the end of this lesson, the student will be able to describe Newton's three laws of motion in his or her own words. Now, in the case of reciting, the child is remembering what the teacher has told, and he or she is telling the same thing. But in the case of understanding, the child should be in a position to explain it in his or her own words. There is lots of difference. In the case of remembering the exact thing what he learned, in the case of understanding, putting what he learned in his or her own words. This is the difference. And in the case of applying, by the end of this lesson, the students will be able to calculate the kinetic energy of a projectile. Isn't it? For here, the child is using the knowledge in the real life scenario. He is applying. Okay. uh, he will be in a position to calculate the kinetic energy of a projectile. So here the child is applying the knowledge that he or she has gained during the transaction. By the end of this lesson, in the state of analyzing, in the case of analyzing level, by the end of this lesson, the student will be able to differentiate between potential and kinetic energy. Now, there are two energies, two types of energies that the teacher has taught the child. Now, the child is analyzing, understanding the differences between uh, kinetic energy and potential energy. What are the differences between these two types of energies? The next level is evaluation, wherein the student will be able to determine whether using conservation of energy or conservation of momentum would be more appropriate for solving a dynamic problems. Let me come from the lower level again. He or she has told the same thing which the teacher has taught, and then the next level is using the knowledge that he or she has gained from the teacher. He or she is explaining it in his or her own words. That is the second level. In third level, using the knowledge gained in the real life scenario. In the fourth level, understanding, differentiating between different knowledges. Teacher has given knowledge about potential energy and kinetic energy. Okay. Child will understand, okay, critically think and understand difference between the two types of knowledge the teacher has given. And finally, he should be in a position to judge which one he or she should use in that particular scenario. Okay, for problem solving or decision making, for doing anything. How is he, which he has lots of knowledge, but what should be used in that particular scenario? This is evaluation stage. And finally, by the in the creative stage, the student will be able to design or an original homework problem dealing with the principle of conservation of energy. So finally, it's a creative level wherein the child himself or herself is indulged in coming up with something new about the concept. So this was all about what we say like Bloom's taxonomy and verbs. And let's move further. As I told you, all these slides are about, emphasis upon the different levels. And the next level is the effective level, effective domain. Okay, this was published in the year 1964. So please make a note of effective level also, because, most of the people, they miss the effective domain. So I shall give you 2 minutes time. Kindly draw this triangle. Kindly everyone draw this triangle. I have got a question that how to decide which level to be given in examination. Thank you so much for the question, ma'am. It depends upon the blueprint of the question paper. So we will be getting, document from CBSE, uh, like uh, like how many competency based questions are to be asked and how many application based questions are to be asked and all. So depending upon, and it differs from class to class. For 6 7 8 it will be of some percentage, and 9 and 10 it will be of some percentage. So depending upon that we need to ask the questions. Lesson plan with regard to Bloom's taxonomy, for that we will do a separate session. Thank you. Meanwhile, while everyone is drawing this pyramid, I would like to just answer a few questions. Yes, thank you, ma'am. So, as everyone were very much familiar with Bloom's taxonomy, I was actually doing it on a faster pace. the creative domain, sorry, cognitive domain. Now, as we are discussing the affective domain, I would like to reduce the pace and explain each and everything properly. So, the affective domain is actually concerned with the feelings and emotions of the children. Several times, adults fail to understand the feelings and emotions of the children. That's the reason, in many a cases, especially children who are moving into their adolescence, like sixth, seventh, eighth grades and all, they become rebellious at many a times. So this effective model came as a second handbook, with the first being the cognitive model and an extension of Bloom's original work in 1964. So you can see the pyramid here. In the first level, it is receiving. Second level is about responding of the child. Third level is about valuing. Fourth level is about organizing. And fifth level is about characterizing. Now let us see each level clearly. Okay, as this like domain focuses on the ways in which we handle all things related to emotions such as feelings, values, appreciation, enthusiasm, motivation, and attitude. Okay, so how the child is responding to all these things that are happening in his or her life is what we are going to observe here. So from the lowest to highest, with examples included, the five levels are: first level is receiving, basic awareness. So for example, listening and remembering the names of your classmates when you meet them on the first day of the school. So here you can understand that the basic expectation from a child when he or she is admitted into the school is that listening to everyone while they are speaking. Okay, he should not feel that he is isolated or she is isolated. They should be in a position to mingle with the people and understand what they are speaking and at least remembering their names. This is at the receiving level of the affective domain in the case of any child. And the next thing is responding. Active participation and reacting to stimuli with a focus on responding. For example, participating in a class discussion. Many a times, if you observe, several children, they don't actively participate in any sort of, what do we say, classroom activities. They're always isolated. They don't want to participate in any classroom activity, in a discussion. They're always quiet. Lots of motivation is needed for them. Okay, that is because proper emphasis is not done during the receiving period. So once we have to see, this is the level which we parents and teachers they are supposed to closely observe when the children are moving from one class to another class. Okay, whether they are having the receiving capacity of all the people around them, friends, peer groups, as well as teachers and all. And finally, the next stage is responding, wherein they are actively participating in discussions of classroom. They are speaking to people. They are maintaining a peer group. Okay, they are speaking to teachers. Many children, they don't respond to teachers also. So in that case, we should motivate the child to respond properly. Valuing, the value that is associated with a particular object or piece of information, and ranging from basic acceptance to complex commitment. Values are somehow related to prior knowledge and experience. Valuing diversity and being sensitive to other people's backgrounds and beliefs. See, in the case of students, they are always, having some sort of inferiority in them, especially when they move to sixth, seventh, eighth grades and all. Slowly, their approach towards teachers, their approach towards, parents and all, it becomes less. Because in this case, what happens is all the experiences with the child is having at home and at school, that is affecting the value system of the child. Do you several times children say, no, my favorite teacher is that teacher. Why is the student saying that particular teacher is his or her favorite teacher? Because the experience given by that particular teacher is like that. Okay. So what sort of experience we give to the students that affects the value system of the students? This is a great, thing that we have to always remember. we should be very sensitive in the case of students. Teachers should be very sensitive and speak, after lots of, like refinement. Every word that we speak that will affect the child positively or negatively. Okay, so if in this case, okay, not only the child, like is in a position to, like speak about the experiences that he or she had from elders or circumstances, that also affects how the child receives others. Many adults say, if I look at this person, no, I remember my uncle, okay, who has done this with me, isn't it? So, see, like the experience which we give to a child, it is a lifelong experience. Even the people who are meeting him or her in life, they also get affected. So, like this level, effective level is very much important. Teachers should have a great understanding about this. We should be very careful while dealing with the students. So, give good experiences for the students. Finally, it is organizing, sorting values into priorities, and creating a unique value system with an emphasis on comparing and relating previously identified values. Accepting professional ethical standards in the case of, like youngsters, in the level wherein value systems are there, we are expecting the child to accept and be sensitive to the values and diversity around him. Diversity in the sense different people who are around him. Now we are expecting, in the organizing level, we are expecting the child to organize himself, okay, and get adapted to the value system of others also. It is a level of interpersonal skills we have in our life skills. One of the life skill is interpersonal skills. In the level of organizing, this is what we are expecting from the child. Now, in the level of valuing, understanding the diversity and being sensitive towards the diversity. The level of organizing, adapt the diversity. Okay, adapt the diversity and adapt the rules and regulations of that particular area wherein he or she is living or surviving. It may be at workplace or at school or whatever it is. Few children, if you observe, they are very much, like interested in breaking the rules. Okay, it is because they haven't, somehow the emphasis is not led properly in the value level. If the emphasis was properly led, they don't become the people who break the rules. So the one who break the rules, okay, they are somehow affected by the behavior of the people around them. Okay. The final thing is characterizing, building abstract knowledge based on knowledge acquired from the four previous tiers. Value system is now in full effect and controls the way you behave. Displaying a professional commitment to ethical standards in the workplace. This is what we can take as an example. So the final thing is, like in the whole set, in the whole pyramid of effective domain, a very important point that we have to remember is value system. The complete life of the student, is affected by the value system that we are teaching the child and the value system that the child is grasping from his surroundings. Okay, so it is very much important that we concentrate upon the value system. That's what, like in NCF 2023 also, it is clearly stated we have to create citizens who have values and characters that are needed for the nation. Okay, so the value system is a significant part